My name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about part 2 of our dismissive avoidant series about your checklist needed for the dating phase of a relationship. So I've been doing a series on this in 2 parts because there's a lot of content and a lot to sort of pack in here. If you haven't already, please make sure you go back and watch part 1. It's sort of like the foundational part for part 2 of your dating checklist. And also, if you want to do a way deeper dive into this and save yourself time and energy and stress that might otherwise be spent finding these things out as you're going through them in a relationship, we do have our advanced attachment style courses that help you navigate each of the 6 stages of a relationship in a lot of detail. The timeline, the expectations, the needs, the core beliefs that will pop up, and a big checklist for everything that you'll need for each of the different stages in general. So stay tuned for that, or check in with that if you want to do a deeper dive. And if you want to join not an all access, an all access member. I was thinking of our lifetime because we just opened this lifetime membership and finished putting this launch sale at the end of the month. So it's still available, but it's not at that crazy launch price that we had. So all access membership, it gives you access to all of the different courses, 35 plus. We add 2 new ones every single month. And I do 4 live webinars a week with individuals, so you get that community. We have a Discord chat channel, a members forum, all these different things. So you have community, and you can work on growing with like-minded people. If you want to dive into that, coupon code with you, all one word, is 25% off right now. You can check out the description box below, and I'll put a link or a card on this video as well. So let's dive right in from where we left off. So as we went through the earlier parts of the checklist, where we left off is, am I practicing vulnerability in the dating phase of a relationship? This is a really important one for dismissive avoidance. And this looks like, am I working on sharing my feelings and evaluating what I might need from a relationship and communicating that? And sometimes dismissive avoidants fall into this sort of trap where they will not feel like they need anything from other people emotionally because they've become so self-reliant, and they've really rejected even bothering to have their needs met from others because of usually trauma, the trauma of emotional neglect in childhood. And so sometimes we'll see dismissive avoidance like really try to deny that they have needs from others, but part of your healing and part of what's going to make you secure and allow you to navigate relationships and feel good about them and harmonious in them is, do I know what I want from other people? What do I want to receive? Do I want to receive support? Do I want to receive kindness? Do I want to receive, humor and fun? Like, what are my needs from other people in the interpersonal dynamic between myself and somebody else? And am I communicating these things? Am I sharing that these things are important to me? Because if I don't, I either expect people to mind read, or I feel disempowered in the relationship over time because chances are somebody else tells me what they want, whether it's through criticism or whether it's through actual open, healthy, honest, secure communication. But if I don't think that I can do that back because I've so deeply repressed that into my subconscious mind, eventually it's going to feel like an imbalance of an exchange. Even if that person is super supportive and loving and giving, they're not eventually going to be able to give in the way that we necessarily need. And over time, that can start to feel unfulfilling. So this is really important. Like, do you know what you want from a relationship? What would your ideal relationship look like, and why? What characteristics or ingredients would it have? And can you start communicating that these things are important to you as you're navigating a relationship dynamic in the dating phase, as you're starting things off, because this is where you build that foundation, okay? And am I practicing vulnerability overall? Am I sharing feelings? Am I sharing, fears or memories from my past? Am I doing, at least one thing every date or every other date to open myself up? And this is really, really important work, okay? Next, am I communicating through problems instead of allowing small things to make me run in the other direction? A lot of dismissive avoidants have a belief that, if there's a conflict in the dating phase of a relationship, it must not be workable. It's not going to work. There shouldn't be conflict, where that's not necessarily true. And sometimes when people have a really strong emotional connection and they move really quickly, sometimes there will be conflict in the dating phase of a relationship, or even if there's a really strong intellectual connection, because if it's sort of fireworks, those things sometimes come with expectations. And so it's okay to have a little bit of conflict in the dating phase. This is where we learn about each other and we work through these things, and we have a good foundation of communication through problems. And sometimes DAs will run the other direction. Now, this isn't me saying like if somebody disrespects your boundaries, violates them, does things that are non-negotiable for you, if you feel really unfulfilled in the dating phase of the relationship, like leave. Like you have the absolute right as a human being to leave. But I'm saying if things are going really well and then there's a bump in the road, that's part of our human condition. And so we're going to have to work through those things and develop those skills and work those muscles and build them out over time so that we can become masters of navigating conflict. And eventually long term, that not only creates more harmonious relationships, but it also helps us to avoid conflict proactively when we've started to become masterful at communicating as well. And then we become less afraid of conflict as a byproduct. Am I communicating clearly who I am? Okay, so things like, or what you expect, like honesty is really important to me, trust matters to me a lot, harmony in a relationship matters, safety, emotional support, these sorts of things. I want to feel appreciated or acknowledged, acts of service, these are a lot of the DA things. And so are you communicating these things? Are you sharing? Because the more you share, the more you give somebody something to work with, and the more happy you're likely to be in an interpersonal relationship as a byproduct. And are you sharing who you are? Sometimes DAs think they are, but sometimes they're not really sharing personal details about themselves, or like, stories about their life, or, diving deep in a way that allows them to feel understood. And then they kind of wonder, like, why is somebody not understanding me? Or why am I not feeling seen? And sometimes it's because you're being a lot less vulnerable than you think that you are, because sometimes you're using your internal resistance to vulnerability because of old programs as your like gauge, or I don't have like a better word, as your like measurement of how vulnerable you're being. So for example, for you to say one feeling or one need might feel like an 8 out of 10 vulnerable. And so you might feel like, wow, I was so vulnerable today. And that's excellent. But at the same time, Bob over here or Jane over there or whoever might be sharing stuff like that 5-6 times an evening without thinking about it, feeling like they're not even being that vulnerable because they have more positive associations to vulnerability and communication about who they are and their fears and these different dynamics. And so for you want to remember, like, sometimes I have to push myself to go a little bit of the extra way, and you want to be consistent about it. And then if you feel like you're unseen or unheard, chances are you're not seeing yourself and hearing yourself and then putting that on the table enough and consistently enough for others, okay? And that can be even in terms of like your boundaries, like, hey, like a lot of alone time, or I like to move slowly, like these sorts of things like we were kind of talking about in part 1. The next thing is, am I paying attention to red flags? This is always important. DAs are usually pretty good at this, and often red flags will cause them to deactivate, but I can't leave that out of this video because that's important for everybody. And also, I will be doing a series about what to do when we see red flags, and how red flags impact each of the different styles, and how to pay attention and sort of work through these things. The next one is, am I accepting others' imperfections and speaking about my expectations so they turn into a need instead of an expectation? An expectation is a repressed need that we project onto somebody, and we're like, they better do this, and when they don't, we get mad or resentful. When we have something that we want and we express it instead of repress it, it becomes like a dynamic of, hey, we're able to get this met, we're able to negotiate, we're able to compromise, and we don't feel like we're repressing ourselves and then resenting other people for it long term, which is honestly a thing that people do a lot. And the other first part here that I said is, am I practicing accepting others' imperfections? This is important. I don't mean accepting red flags or boundary violations or these sorts of things, but like we were talking about earlier, are you trying to run away because the person used a swear word and you don't like that, but maybe that's a solvable problem. And this is the difference. Like, a red flag or a non-negotiable is different than somebody not meeting an expectation, okay? An expectation is usually a solvable problem through proper communication. You could say on your next date, hey, I feel like we're really getting along. I notice I'm really sensitive to swear words, and, I'd appreciate if you could be mindful of that. Like, a lot of the things DAs will think are not solvable because they have this conditioned belief that they can't communicate about them. And so this is part of why they push away so far, is because it's like they wait for this perfect person because they don't trust themselves to be able to communicate their own needs. So the person needs to be perfect. Otherwise, there's going to be all this turmoil that they feel like they can't talk about or express about. And this is going to create problems over time, right? But if you trust yourself to express and communicate, all these little things become solvable problems through communication. And now we have space and patience for imperfections because we trust ourselves to be able to navigate them and work out dynamics that compromise in a healthy way between two parties. Am I speaking up when I feel frustrated? Really important for DAs. Again, kind of connected to the other one. Am I willing to have a healthy approach to conflict by practicing explaining myself? Okay? Communicating through conflict. DAs sometimes will just want to stay away and speak through actions, but DAs have some work to do in terms of speaking through language, and this is very freeing and rewarding for a DA when they get the opportunity to do so, because they feel empowered, they feel like they have boundaries, they feel like they can use their words and keep space if they feel that that's the right thing, and get that need respected through explaining, reconnect with people. Like, there's a lot of good things that come out of communication, okay? And am I sharing about how I need space and why? Very much connected to what we just talked about. By sharing the why behind it, other people don't take it personally, or at least not as much. And then your need is more likely to be respected and understood, and you don't get criticized or shamed for it, right? And then usually what also happens is then you can encourage somebody else to communicate their needs back. So maybe you have more quality time in exchange for more space where electronics are off, you're fully, connected to each other, having deeper conversations or more affection or whatever it might be. And that quality time fills somebody's bucket, so they feel good, and then you get more space or autonomy or freedom, and you feel good. And so there's ways to compromise, but that starts with you sharing and sharing your why behind things. And lastly, am I sharing anything else that I need from others? Really, really important for DAs in general. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. It means so much to me. And I will see you in the next video.